Discrete influences. When the Swiss painter and poet Frithjof Schumann, 1907–1998, returned from the East in the 1940s, transformed into the supreme master of one of the most influential esoteric Muslim organizations and announcing his intention to Islamize Europe, he gave a clear impression of being completely insane. Today, it is appropriate to examine his words and the course of his actions with humility, as their overwhelming efficiency contrasts with the total discretion with which they were undertaken. From the outset, the establishment of Schumann's Tariqa, Islamic Initiatic Lodge, in Lausanne was hailed by the esoteric writer René Guénon, 1886–1951, as the only promising result achieved from his own four-decade efforts. This clearly demonstrates the purpose of those efforts and, despite the later rupture between Guénon and Schumann, it highlights the perfect continuity of the work of these two esotericists, whose respective disciples nowadays prefer to hate each other rather than celebrate their common victory over a spiritually weakened Europe. In the 1920s, Guénon, the author of masterful analyses of the decline of European Western civilization, had concluded that only three paths were open to this civilization: falling into barbarism, restoring the Catholic Church, or Islamization. When he spoke those words about Frithjof Schumann, he had already given up on the second option. The failure of the Second Vatican Council, whose appearances the Pope still try in vain to salvage, proved that his diagnosis, in broad lines, was correct. Radically de-Christianized Europe is now the stage for an open competition between barbarism and Islamism. There seems to be no third way. Secular civilization is a joke. The possibility of rescuing the Christian option depends entirely on American influence or the admirable dedication of Eastern and African priests and pastors who, in a paradoxical twist of history, return to try to re-evangelize the people who Christianized them. The actions of figures like Guénon and Schumann go unnoticed by the media, political analysts, and intellectuals, in general, who are hypnotically fixated on the flashy surface of events. But without them, the occupation from within, through immigration, would have remained ineffective due to the lack of cultural conditions that disarmed the European intellectual and political elite. Guénon and Schumann greatly contributed to creating these conditions, subjecting the higher and more circumspect layers of this elite to the cult of the intellectual superiority of the East in all decisive areas, except for the natural sciences and technology. Guénon signed his early articles under the pseudonym Sphinx, denoting that his readers had no option but to intelligently assimilate his lessons or allow themselves to be dominated by them without understanding. In only one European country were these lessons seriously meditated upon by independent thinkers: Romania. When I lived in Bucharest, I did not encounter a single eminent intellectual there who did not have a deep and critical understanding of Guénon's work. In the rest of Europe, there was an alternation between incomprehensible refusal and devoted submission, including a significant number of secret conversions to Islam and the enlistment of many intellectuals and leaders, including Prince Charles, in the state protection scheme for Islamic expansionism. Not coincidentally, Romania is one of the rare European countries where Muslim penetration is negligible. To grasp the strength of Guénon and Schumann's subtle influence, it suffices to know that the latter directly intervened in the crisis between Monsignor Lefebvre and the Vatican in 1976, and to this day, Catholic historians, whether progressive or conservative, have barely taken notice of it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This text was taken from the article, Discrete Influences, written by philosopher Olavo de Carvalho in 2008.